Hey there, friends. We are out here in Culver City for the first 2 episodes of Amazon Prime's The Rings of Power. There's a quick activation, then we're going to head into the theater and then back to the couch to give our first thoughts. So, let's get started. Friends, we are back in the studio. We're about to talk about Amazon Prime's Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. 2 quick notes really quick before we start. Number 1, I'm going to do my very best to adhere to the comment section and not talk about myself as much, because apparently a lot of people don't enjoy that. They want me to get to the nitty-gritty and then talk about myself. And number 2, I'm not allowed to curse anymore. Apparently Microsoft Start has flagged it as a no-no, and therefore all social media must suffer because of Microsoft Start. All right, let's get into it. Just right off the bat, I will say, I think this season, at least the 2, because just mind you, I only saw the first 2 episodes of the season. I still don't know what the full encompass of the entirety of season 2 is going to be, but I will say right off the bat, Season 2 already is giving me more emotion, more of what I was missing from the first season. The first season kind of threw a lot of exposition at us, and it was really hard for me and for those who, I've read the books. I read the books, and mind you, when I say I've read the books, I read the books. If you ask me a specific thing about the books, I read the books in the same way I read the Game of Thrones books. I know what happened, but I don't know what happened. You know, like, I don't know what happened on page 14. I don't know about this lineage, that, and I've forgotten a lot of the genealogy. And that's kind of the same way that I feel about The Hobbit, and especially the Lord of the Rings books. The first time I even watched, I know I said I wasn't going to talk about myself, and here I am talking about myself, but I need to talk about myself so you guys know where I'm coming from. First time I watched the Lord of the Rings, and I'm talking the first time I ever watched it, I watched the extended director's cut edition, and that was because someone I was dating at the time was like, this is important to me, let's do it. So I spent the next, what felt like 14 hours watching all of it. So I feel like my first interaction to this was really full engrossing on it. From there, I started reading the books, and I started really getting into what I understand the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit truly are. And I feel like I've got a nice grasp, but watching the first season of the Rings of Power, I felt like I was being thrown a lot of information, and it lacked, for me, a lot of the character development, and it lacked a lot of what was really gonna sink me as an audience member into the emotional stakes of the show. And it had to be. I think it needed to set all of that up so that season 2 and season 3 and beyond could really survive and really thrive. They gave us 2 episodes. I think the first episode really was more about the elves and more about what, in the elves' mind, their hierarchy, their benevolent, their just better than thou attitude is really leading us to. I mean, at this point, they've got their rings, and now it's a matter of, do we keep it? Don't we keep it? Why don't we keep it? Why wouldn't we keep it? And we see that kind of come to fruition in the first episode. And I think it's really interesting, the moral aspects they play in this second season, because the question really begins to get asked is it the moral corruption that is pressured upon us that really signifies evil, or is it the acceptance within ourselves that really is evil? And I think it's the juxtaposition of that idea. Is it the outside force, or is it the internal force that really signifies what evil is, that plays a big part in this first episode? And I think that's really interesting, especially for the elves who believe themselves to be this high moral compass. And it doesn't help when Wentz, the 3 elders of the elves, put on this ring, and lo and behold, all of their troubles melt away as the tree comes back to life. This tree that they believe is their deity, is their guiding compass, comes back to life when they put on these rings that were supposed to be melted away. It's just all of these little things, and so you wonder, is this the outside divinity force that is showing us the right path, or is this Sauron manipulating us to get what he really wants? Whew, let's talk about Sauron. Episode 1, if episode 1 is all about the elves, episode 2 is split between the dwarves and the gaslighter, the manipulator, the girl boss that is Sauron, or Halborn, or and Anatar, as this one. He takes on a new form, it's Anatar. God diggity. Gosh darn tootin', I'm trying my best not to curse. This Mamma Jamma is the biggest manipulating girl boss gaslight. I was screaming. I had to forget, like I forgot myself for a moment in this theater, because lo and behold, I can't even, okay, let's just get into it. So obviously the dwarves are struggling right now, and I think the dwarves, in and of themselves, it's really cool because we're figuring out why the dwarves would talk to Celebrimbrar. I have to say it with like an accent. Celebrimbrar. Doesn't help. The Mr. Ringmaker. Why they would get into bed with the Ringmaker. Obviously, Elendor is friends with him, and he's friends with the elves, or with the dwarves, and so he kind of brings all of these players together. But why would the dwarves really, truly go back a second time, and then a third time, to make more rings for the dwarves, and then for the humans? Why would they do that? And we discover in the second episode what outside forces would cause them to need to seek outside help, which I think is really wonderful, because that's something that I think we needed. We understood why initially they made the rings for the elves, but why they would continue to make the rings is really important, and we delve into that in the second episode. But again, the question is, are these just natural forces that are causing the players to make their way onto the board, or is this truly the influence of Sauron? And how powerful is Sauron, or Anatar? Again, taking on a new form. I really got to give my props to Anatar at this point, because and I was chuckling, I was laughing, just laughing at all. God, it's hard when you can't curse. But I was just laughing so much during this scene because Celebrimbrar, elven names are hard. How easy it was for him to manipulate him, because the thing about all elves is their pride and their hubris. You stroke that just a little bit, and these elves will just bend over backwards for you. And of course, for Master Ringmaker, all you have to say is, oh, they didn't appreciate your gift, or oh, they stole your rings and they didn't appreciate you in the way that you should have been appreciated. But come to me. Let me tell you my woes, and let me tell you how I would have appreciated those rings. Come, invite me upstairs for tea, even though you've left me out in the cold for a while. It's just so simple how easily manipulated these elves are, and how quickly all he has to say is, I'm a Messiah from Valinor, from our homelands, from our sacred place. And this Sauron literally comes from the flames of hell. And he's like, wow, you're my deity. It's amazing. I think that this, again, like I said from the beginning, this season truly gives us everything that I think we really needed. It gives us humor. It gives us life. It gives us a lot more intrigue. We're past the exposition phase. We're now getting into the nitty-gritty of the rings, and now we're taking that knowledge from the books and that human intrigue and putting it together to make a glorious season. And again, I've only got the first 2 episodes under my belt, so how much do I really know? But what I can say is, from these first 2 episodes of this season, I think that we're in for something really fun and really beautiful and engaging, and something that I think a lot of these other shows like House of Dragons is missing, because it's lost that human connection, and it lost that that fun that we see in horror films, because we connect with these individual characters and we beg them not to go through the door, not to make bad choices, because we've made this personal connection to these characters. And that is what I love. I think that this show, it's making these characters real. I think in the first season they were a little bit too ethereal, a little too mystical, and a little too out of reach and out of touch. And now we've brought a little bit more life. Yeah, we've just brought a little bit more life and a little more, we've lost the further distance between us and the character. We're a lot more close and connected to them now. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I didn't think I was going to rant this long, but those are my first impressions from episode 1 and 2 of the Rings of Power. This was a really good activation. It was an amazing activation. It was a really good and fun first 2 episodes. Boy, we don't like Sauron, do we? No. Alrighty guys, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, do all the fun stuff. I will see you guys for the next showing, and let me know in the comments below what you're most excited for Amazon Prime's The Lord of the Rings of Power Season 2. Until then, I will see you all for the next one.